Hey guys, welcome. I'm Catherine and this is Little Bits of Heaven Homestead. So it's chick season. If you've been to Tractor Supply, you are fully aware that they have tubs and tubs of little chicks. I got these guys from my local feed store. I tend to and prefer to stay local if at all possible. That and they just take really good care of their animals, so I feel good about supporting them. So this one here specifically is an Easter egger. Oftentimes you're going to find them labeled as Americanas. Unless you're going to a breeder of true Americanas, they're Easter eggers. But they're going to have beautiful colored eggs, pink, light green, light blue, so hence the name Easter egger. So I'm going to put this guy back in my brooder and I am going to tell you what I feel is essential to bring home your first chick and raise them into healthy, happy hens and or roosters depending on what you're getting. So let me set this down and I'm going to show you my brooder. Excuse me guys. Okay, so I have two brooders going on in here. I'm going to show you this one first, and then this one's a little dark and hard to see, so I'll move you over here in a second. So these are my chicks. I bought them, they were about a week or two old from my local feed store. You need to keep them inside and safe and warm until they're fully feathered out, which is about 5 to 6 weeks old. When you first bring home, oftentimes you can order like day-old chicks from a hatchery. They need to be kept at approximately 92 degrees, and then you're going to lower that about 5 degrees every consecutive week thereafter until they're able to handle your outside ambient air temperature. So I do have mine in the shed. They're relatively protected, so you want to keep them in a draft-free location. That's important, and that's even important when you transition them to outside. So you want to have lots of open air flow, but you do not want a draft. And that'll make a little more sense as I show you guys my coop in future videos. So this is my brooder, and what I opted to go with, mostly because I had it on my property and it was handy and I didn't have to buy it and spend the money, is this 100-gallon water trough. My other brooder over here is a 50-gallon water trough. The 50-gallon was actually my dog water at one point, and it was iced over during the winter. My husband was breaking the ice with a shovel, busted a hole in the bottom of the trough, so it's no longer watertight, but functions perfect as a brooder. So get creative, get resourceful. You don't have to necessarily go out there and spend big money. Depending on your resources, your time frame, your community, and what you have available to you, that's all variables on your end, but this is what I chose to use. So 100-gallon water trough. You're going to need something to cover it because chicks can fly pretty much immediately. So a couple days old, they can fly right out of this if they so chose. So I just use chicken wire strung over the top of it. You're going to need some sort of bedding down in the bottom. You can use newspaper. It does get slick if it gets wet. You can use shredded paper. I opt to go with pine shavings. That's just my bedding of preference. Do be aware that if you do use pine shaving, that the chicks, because they dig and scratch, they kick up all sorts of dust. And it coats everything. So if you're going to keep chicks inside your house, that's something you need to be aware of and keep in mind, and just don't be upset if you walk in and you've got this stuff all over your house, because that is a potential if you're keeping them in the house. That's part of why I opt to keep them out here in my shed, because they can kick up all this dust and is what it is. But that's also something to keep in mind because you are going to need a heat source of some sort. A lot of people will go with these heat lamps. They are also a fire hazard, partly because of all this dust that does build up on it. It is combustible. I'm out here, when I run this, I'm out here every day or two dusting it off. The dust gets everywhere. So you need to, if you do have a heat lamp, make sure you're cleaning off up inside of it too. That's important. I prefer to not use a heat lamp. I only run that usually over the winter when it's really, really cold, and I use it to heat up the ambient air in my shed, not necessarily to keep the chicks warm. And you need to make sure you have it really secure. I cannot stress that enough. If a heat lamp falls into that pine shavings, you've got a guaranteed fire. So again, I prefer to not use a heat lamp if at all possible. My preferred heating method is a radiant heat plate. So, and these things are so fire safe that I actually forgot to unplug it and left it out here running for like 6 months while I didn't have any chicks brooding, and then came back out and realized, and the only reason I knew it was on was because it was a little warmer in my shed than normal, and this has a light that shows you that it's on, and so that's how I noticed, and I went, oh, stupid Catherine, but it was not a fire hazard, and that gives me comfort, that gives me peace of mind, especially since I do have my chicks out here in my shed. If it were to catch on fire, I may not notice immediately versus having a heat lamp that falls inside my house. I don't know that there's a positive or a negative to fire in either case. It's just something you have to keep in mind. Just, this is all about prevention. So, but anyways, this is my preferred way to keep my young chicks warm. They climb up underneath it. It's radiant, so it's not actually producing any sort of heat, like hot to the touch, but the chicks themselves get warm underneath it. So this is worth its weight in gold. I would recommend this any day. So your chicks are going to need something to eat out of. I do have a set of these guys for food and water. I lost the bottom part of my feeder, so I've just been using dog food, cat food bowls from the Dollar Tree. I have 2 in this brooder because I have a fair amount of chicks in here. And then my water source. And I like to put the water source in some other sort of deep dish because the chicks, as they're kicking around, they'll kick all sorts of shavings into the water and you end up with a mess. So this just kind of gives you an added layer of protection for your water, so it keeps it, it's not going to keep it clean, guys. Chickens, and especially ducklings, are super messy. So you're going to have to be prepared to clean this out at least once a day, if not twice. But this gives you a little added layer of, I guess it's a buffer zone, to kind of keep things cleaner a little longer. As far as feed goes, I personally just go straight into chick grower. There is chick starter, chick grower, and then I transition from there into egg layer. You can also do all flock depending on your preference. Because I am raising for eggs, I go from chick grower, and once I transition my chicks outside and they're intermingling with my bigger flock, they just automatically put themselves onto the egg layer because they're out there with the chickens at the chicken feeding station. So, and I don't necessarily measure it. They're voracious little dinosaurs, so I just top this off definitely once a day. I'll come my second time a day. If it looks like they're still hungry, then I'll give them more. If they're not acting like they're starving, then they just usually wait until the next day. So as far as gauging, are your chicks healthy, happy, comfortable? You can see right now they're all kind of sleeping over there. If I'm running a heat lamp, you can watch their general behavior. If they're cold, they're going to be piling on top of one another. They're going to be huddling under the heat lamp. If they're comfortable, they're going to be kind of roaming around, doing their chicken thing. So, and you'll see if I put my food and water down here, they'll all get up. It's kind of their nap time this morning. They were out roaming around, doing their chick thing. I don't know if you guys can see. They're all cuddling with this bear. It's just something weird that I feel strongly about. When I got my first ducklings, a friend of mine, she said that she always puts a stuffed animal in with her baby livestock, and they do. They really appreciate it. They cuddle with it. It just makes my mama heart happy. So that's what they're all piled on top of my little bear there right now. So then I want to show you my ducklings. So ducklings you have to handle a little bit different than chicks. So I'm going to show you. For ducks, you want a bigger container of water. They're going to get in it, they're going to splash in it, they're going to behave exactly like you would expect ducklings to do. But they also need to be able to fully dip their bill into the water because, and I'll show you guys this in just a second, they're very dramatic eaters, so they'll run back and forth in between the feed and the water. So if you're going to feed ducklings, they always have to have water available at the time that you feed them. So because they stick their little bills in here and it gets packed into their nostrils, and if they're unable to fully dip their beaks, their nostrils get plugged and then it can actually kill them. So it's important that they have enough water, that it's deep enough that they can run over and dip their little beaks in there and clear out. So I'm going to show you guys feeding time with the ducks because it's kind of funny. So, and like I said, they're very dramatic. I do have 3 bigger chicks in here, and that's also important as you're bringing home chicks to size them similarly, because bigger chicks can they can accidentally squish your little chicks. So you just want to kind of keep that in mind and keep them similarly sized if at all possible. So I'm going to show you guys this. Bring you over here. Let's see. So you can see, just like with my chickens, I have pine shavings down. These guys, they'll get the shavings totally wet in a day or two. And so you can see I had water in here earlier today and this is already wet. So it's important. I know, guys, are you ready? So it's important to keep their bedding dry and clean. Okay, this is going to be fun. Ready, guys? Okay, hold on. Okay. Here we go, little guys. And they are such a mess. I dump out their water twice a day. That's important with these guys. Yeah. Yeah. But you see how they eat and then they run back and forth and get water at the same time? So ducklings, I'll bring it back up now. Okay. So ducklings are a little hardier than chicks are, and they don't have the same heat requirements. I do have these other chickens in here that are fully feathered. They're about ready to go outside. And so I'm getting ready to transition all of these guys, including the ducklings, to an outside coop. And so I'll show you guys that hopefully in the next week. But I wanted to share this with you. Partly because they are adorable. Isn't that fun, guys? Okay, so I hope this was something of value and of help. I hope that if you are just getting into chicks that this answered some questions. I hope nothing but fun on your chick adventures. They're definitely a great addition to any homestead. You are going to expect approximately 20 weeks before you can find your first egg from your laying hens. That's always super exciting. So again, thanks for joining me, guys. I hope I brought you something of value. If you have not already, please subscribe to my channel, hit that little notification bell, and like this video. And share it with somebody who may be new to chickens or considering chickens. Again, thanks for joining me, guys. Talk to you later.